Hi guys, so I'm doing another reading. I did one earlier and I wasn't sure I wanted to do it because, I'm so anti-love reading for some reason. But I pulled these other cards and I thought, well, I might as well do them both. So Baba Yaga, we all know the story. She's known as the wicked grandmother. There's stories of her eating children, just being wicked and evil. But in this deck, it talks about her being the emphasis of the wild woman, somebody who lives on the outskirts of society and doesn't care what anybody thinks, right? This card talks about allowing yourself to be you to the fullest and honestly not allowing yourself to play small. But there's also another side of her. She's also known as the goddess of the last harvest, and it was said that if a woman was to take one of the grains and eat one of the grains from the last harvest, then they would become pregnant. So she's kind of like, birth, death, and rebirth type of situation, the goddess of regeneration. So, regenerate yourself, be empowered by who you are, right? And so underneath of it, we have the Liminal Forrest Oracle, and we have Mob, which I have used this card before for this similar situation where it's about, understanding that sometimes we collect ourselves in a mob situation, whether it be at work or in family aspects, and we kind of blend our own ideas with other people. As a Pisces moon, I have to watch myself because sometimes I like to pride myself as being an original person. I credit that to growing up in the 90s. But at the same time, it's also hard when you're emotionally attached to people, or you want them to be accepting of you, right? Now, this is kind of the same concept. Like, there's so much going on sometimes that it's hard to not get caught up in that. No matter how hard we try, there's reasons why we want to be that way. Like, we want to be accepted, or we don't want to do something that makes us feel uncomfortable. And I did this reading right after I did the love reading because I was like, I don't know if I want to do that one. But this kind of made me realize, like, you know what? You have a different understanding of things, so maybe somebody needs to hear it. So anyway, and so then we go to the other Liminal Forest Oracles, and we have attachment and detachment, which I thought was crazy. They came out together. And they're all in alphabetical order in the deck, which I've shuffled a million times. So it's not like it would be right next to it. But attachment. So attachment is, obviously being attached to an idea, being attached to the need for somebody else's approval, the attachment to the idea of the group. And then detachment talks about it can be good or bad. It can be feeling detached from reality, being detached from your own self. And sometimes it can be good, detaching from those mob mentalities. But I feel like with both things, there's a time when it's good to be kind of have a little bit of an attachment to understanding that the wheels of change, right? With the snake on the card, that life is a circle. Like, understanding that, holding on a little bit because it's going to change any minute, but also understanding that holding so hard to something that we want to be the idea, sometimes allows us to make ourselves be attached to things. So maybe letting loose of that a little bit. And then obviously detached is, not allowing yourself to be attached to a outcome, but also not becoming detached to who you really are. So in the first row, we have Eight of Pentacles. This is hard work. It's, you're working on something and you're putting your all into it. And sometimes when we do that, we kind of lose the idea of who we are, and we put so much in that sometimes we wear ourselves out, and the quality of what we're doing kind of gets lost. And so we have the Hierophant underneath of that. The Hierophant a lot of times can be institutions or societies or, even work. It's things that we are expecting to be what society expects us. So again, like a mob mentality, or maybe this is something like work or a religious society that you're with, or a group that you're in. Maybe this is you're working really hard to fit in with these people. Don't do that. So then what we need to work on, we have the Ace of Wands and we have Justice. So the Ace of Wands is a passionate new beginning. A lot of times I also feel like it's a spiritual beginning. This is somebody needs to understand, because this is my section of what we need to work on. You need to re-grasp that passion for who you are, re-grasp that passion for your inner spirituality and who you are at the core, right? Re-understand your spirit. And then with Justice, it's about balance. and it's about the light and the dark, and the the good and the bad, all that stuff. So understanding, like, balancing your passion for yourself, but also when you have to go in society, because sometimes there's nothing we can do about it. We have to work, or we have to do things that we don't like, or we're in families and sometimes we don't get along with our sister or brother or whatever. Understanding there has to be a balance there, but maintaining that passion for yourself, maintaining that wand, that inner spirituality, that inner you, right? And so for what we have as our resources or allies, or things around us, energy around us, we have the devil, which, if you've been watching my readings, the last one I did with the devil in it had talked about how the devil can be that untapped energy, that untapped spirituality, that untapped power. And then we have the Two of Swords. So again, I feel like this is like Baba Yaga. It's like, everybody thinks it as a bad thing, but a lot of times the devil also represents releasement of attachments. It doesn't always have to be a bad thing. I mean, when you look at the balance between the Lover's card and the Devil card, that's what it is. It's like a maturity in that type of connection of forces. So when you look at this with the Two of Swords, the Two of Swords also is kind of like having like a decision sometimes, but it can also be, there's a third decision. It looks like there's two, but sometimes, making your own decision. And in this card represents sometimes taking that uncharted path, right? So I feel like this is saying that with swords being, mental, this can be, you have the ability to kind of discern, I don't really like this way and I don't really like this way. So it's a lot of times the Two of Swords can be a merging of two things in a way that works for you. It's hard because we spend all this time deciding, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. But being unattached to the outcome and being understanding that, we still need to maintain our inner sovereignty and who we are is great. I feel like that's where the devil comes in too, because it's, we're not being attached to that mob mentality. And the devil also too, I think that the devil talks about following your passions. So I feel like somebody's being told to follow their passions. Anyway, and so then we have the Five of Cups. I just had the Five of Cups in the other reading too. Five of Cups is, we're looking at all these spilled cups, but we have two of us behind us, right? There's also like this beautiful house and all this stuff behind him and all the stuff that, that is a plus behind him. So it's we still have two cups after this. So if we let go some of this restriction, some of this societal conformity, if we let go of that a little bit, we still have two cups. We still have that, that understanding of, who we are deep inside emotionally and spiritually. And then we have the Four of Wands, which the Four of Wands is celebratory card, but it's also another union card. It's the 1111 card, but it's also understanding, the value of connection and family and togetherness. Again, follow that passion, be who you are, stop following the crowd. But again, balance that out with, being civil, but maybe not. That's why we have Baba Yaga, right? But she has that balance, remember? Because she, she can be destructive or whatever, but in that regeneration, that last grain creates life. Thank you, and I will talk to you soon.